Good Tuesday evening. This is episode 26 of the Cybersecurity and Cryptocurrency Podcast. I'm your host, Eric English. Today is September 4th of 2018. Got some interesting stuff I want to talk about today in regards to cryptocurrency. I'm going to stay focused on that pretty much for this entire podcast. One of the things I've been tinkering with recently is setting up what's called masternodes. Different currencies have the ability to set up what's called a masternode, and the masternode essentially validates transactions similar to what mining would do. The biggest difference between the masternode and actual mining is that the masternode doesn't need nearly as much power, if any at all, really. You can spin it up at AWS and host it there. And all you need to do is have a separate public IP address for each one of the masternodes. Then you have to have a certain amount in your wallet. So for some coins, it's 1,000 coins that you have to have in that wallet at all times, and it'll use that as what's called your collateral. And essentially, you'll be funding and validating transactions in some cases, and it's pretty cool stuff. You actually get a little bit of a cut as well. I don't know, it seems way easier than mining. I've just now started getting into this more and more here lately. I saw an article about it the other day, and I was like, you know what? I never really did look at masternodes. Because I am mining at home. I've got 12 graphics cards mining away. But, they eat up the power. And very inefficient, and I have to switch currencies all the time. But with these masternodes, there is an upfront investment depending on the type of coin that you go for, that you want to set up a masternode for. So, for example, if you want to do Dash, which is probably one of the most popular ones, they want you to have, something like $11,000 worth of Dash to be able to even set this up. So, depending on the coin, there is some upfront investment. However, the payout on these, per masternode, you can get $1,000 a year, for example. So I don't know. It just seems really, really interesting and really cool. The website that you can go to is masternodes.online. And when you go to masternodes.online, you'll see all the different coins that offer the masternodes. It also has the profitability of each coin, and then it has links to their website, to their GitHub, and kind of their how-to articles on how to set up the masternodes and whatnot. It's pretty cool stuff. I unsuccessfully tried to set up one for Linux Pay. Linux Pay is obviously a cryptocurrency, and they use these masternodes. You can also mine Linux Pay, but they do these masternodes as well. But I unsuccessfully set that one up. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the transaction hash to show up for the masternode that I created. So essentially, you have to send exactly 10,000 Linux Pay coins to your wallet, to an address that you create, and it creates a masternode transaction hash. And you're supposed to take that transaction hash and put it into your config file. Well, for whatever reason, I could not get that transaction hash to show up. I tried and tried and tried. I resent the funds back to myself over and over and over again. And I sent exactly 10,000 each time. But for whatever reason, that masternode output, is what it's called, would never show up. I was able to get the transaction ID and hash, but when I plugged that into my config file, I was getting an error that it could not create the master node with that transaction ID. So something went wrong there. I don't know what. I fiddled with it most of the day yesterday. Yesterday was Labor Day, and I did masternode stuff on Labor Day. But I'm trying a new one today. I'm just going to keep kind of tinkering around and see what I can do. Just looks really interesting. I mean, some of these, have a very small upfront investment, and the payout per year is actually pretty nice. So, if you're looking to make some extra coin and you don't want to do any mining, check out masternodes.online and see if there's something on there you want to get into and kind of set it up and see how it all works and just kind of tinker around with it. You can set these master nodes up, like I said, at AWS, or if you have another hosting provider that you prefer, like DigitalOcean or whoever else, you can certainly use them as well. But it basically requires Ubuntu 16.04. I think it even works with Ubuntu 14.04 as well. And you need about a gig of RAM. And, 20 gig hard drive, you don't need much. And you got to have that wallet with some funds in it. And away you go. So, I'm starting with the ones that require very little upfront. The ones I'm tinkering with were between $20 and $30 upfront that you have to have. And we'll see. The most recent one I'm doing is called Emerald, EMRALD, and they want you to have 1,000 Emerald. The biggest challenge so far has been getting the coins from these various exchanges. So not all exchanges have all coins, of course. So to get this Emerald coin, I had to go register for yet another crypto exchange. And, while I don't necessarily mind signing up for another exchange, I just really wish that these exchanges would have everything. But the cryptocurrencies themselves, the creators of the cryptos, choose where to list their coins because they have to pay a fee to have their coin listed. So I'm sure that some exchanges charge less, some charge more. So for these coins to be on the market somewhere, they may start with the ones that are a little cheaper and work their way up as their coin gets more popular. But so Emerald coin is what I'm going for now with that master node. I've been unsuccessful purchasing the dang stuff from this exchange that I'm going through. It's really weird. I really wish that these exchanges would allow you to make the purchase immediately. They do bidding, and you have to cancel your transaction if it sits there for too long, and it's just... I just want it to be immediate. I want my transaction to go through. I want to buy it right now, but you have to bid and sit there and wait. And sometimes they'll partially fill your order. So I've been requesting 1,000 of these Emerald coins, and they filled 150. Why? I have no idea. But so that's been the most frustrating part with Emerald, at least. The Linux Pay, I was successfully able to get the coin, just couldn't get that transaction hash. And I couldn't get the masternode output to show up, and that was my biggest roadblock. So I tried it at AWS, I tried it at my house, I tried it multiple different ways, and just was never successful with it. But Linux Pay per masternode, it was like $30 upfront investment. Plus, you have to pay to host the VM at AWS or whatever. You can set these up at your house. You can set up, what's kind of cool too, you can set up multiple master nodes, multiple different types of coins on the same Linux box. So if you spin up one Ubuntu server at AWS, you can use it as a master node for 10 or 15 different cryptocurrencies if you wanted to. Providing that you've got the upfront investment for that particular coin and you've got all the prerequisites, you can host as many as you want, but they all have to be different on that same box. Or if you can assign multiple public IPs to the same box, then you could do two of the same. But so far, I'm doing Linux Pay and Emerald on the same box. Linux Pay does not work. Emerald, I can't freaking buy this stuff because these exchanges are a royal pain in the rear. I don't know why they do what they do with the bidding and only partial filling of orders and all this other stuff. So a lot of these cryptos on masternodes.online, I've never heard of a vast majority of them. Of course, haven't heard of a lot of these cryptos because there's so damn many of them now. But because they are so unheard of, that means that they're not listed on a whole lot of different exchanges. And so there you run into the issue of where the hell can I buy this one? And for Emerald specifically, I think you can only get it on one exchange. So that's been my roadblock with that. If I can get it up and running, then I can make, I think it said, $550 a year on it, which I think would cover the hosting fees. I think to host it's like $5 a month at AWS, maybe $7 a month at AWS. So if I made $550 for the year, I'm coming out ahead there. And especially if I spin up multiple instances of this and create different wallets with the same amounts that I need to get a master node started, you can make a pretty damn good living just off these master nodes. So I'm really considering shutting off all my mining gear, saving the electricity, and start setting up a bunch of these master nodes and see if I can make some money doing that. Seems to be pretty cool. But the big return on investment, and by the way, Masternodes Online shows you the return on investment as well per coin. So it's really cool stuff if you're looking to get into that kind of stuff. Anyway, you need to be a little technical. You got to have a little bit of technical knowledge, know how to use AWS or start your own Ubuntu server, install Ubuntu. But to install the actual masternode software, typically it's scripted. There's a GitHub for just about every single one of these cryptos, and on the GitHub it's got a specific place for masternode setup. You click into that, and it's essentially just a shell script that runs and downloads everything and configures everything for you, and away you go. Only thing you have to do once that script is done running is provide your private key and that transaction hash, and just basically change your config file on your masternode server, your Ubuntu server. You also have to change your config file on your wallet as well. So for Linux Pay, for example, I had to go into the wallet configuration file and change a bunch of the settings in there. I also had to go into the masternode config file and change some settings in there as well. But anyway, making some pretty good money doing the masternode stuff. So if you're looking to score some extra funds for not really doing a whole lot of work, then masternode's probably the way to go. And you don't have to buy all kinds of upfront equipment like GPUs and stuff. So I'm going to keep tinkering with this. I may try a few different master nodes with different cryptos if I can't freaking buy this emerald coin and it just ends up pissing me off. I'm just going to move on. Move on to something else. One that I've really been looking at is Smart Cash, because their return on investment was massive. And if I could set up a Smart Cash masternode, I think it was going to return a couple $1,000 a year. But the upfront investment was, I want to say, $700. So you basically double your money in a year, and all you have to do is make sure that masternode is running. So pretty cool stuff. And if you got a bunch of money and you want to set up one of these, like Dash has masternodes, but they require $10,000 or $11,000 in Dash before they'll let you set up this masternode. But if you've got that funding sitting around, you can double your money essentially with one of these masternodes if you let it run for the whole year. So pretty cool, pretty easy way to make some cheese. It looks like, at least. I'll update everybody once I'm officially successful. If I'm successful in setting up one of these masternodes. The install is pretty straightforward on all these so far. Just I had some issues with that transaction ID, so we'll see if I can figure out the issue and get one of these up and running. But Smart Cash is what I'm looking at. You can also mine for Smart Cash, which I am doing right now as well. I was thinking about mining for the Smart Cash that I need to start the masternode, and then use that Smart Cash to create my masternode. So kind of an interesting way to do it. But check out Masternodes Online for all the detailed information on masternodes and the return on investment for each coin, and see if it's right for you. It's pretty cool stuff. Jumping to the cybersecurity world, I'm still setting up a SIM at work, and it's been a couple weeks now that I've been working on this thing. Some of the integrations are not easy. It's got pre-built plugins for some things, and other things you have to build some custom APIs. So it's a little challenging in some cases, but certainly doable. I just got our antivirus logging to it today. It required some TLS certificates and whatnot that I had to configure, but I got that up and going. So we're getting some of our AV events coming in. We got our email events coming in. We got firewall events coming in. So it's coming along pretty nicely. We also got our domain controllers and file servers and stuff coming into that SIM as well. So finally able to start correlating some stuff and see if we can find anybody that's attacking our network actively. So far there hasn't been any, thank God, but you never know what you'll find once I start integrating more and more of these logs. I am going to integrate our spam filter next. I hit a snag with that today, but I do plan on getting that one integrated next and get those logs as well. So I'll do a big nice write-up on the SIM do's and don'ts once I get done with this project. I think there's going to be a lot of do's and don'ts, at least based on what I've seen so far. Obviously, there's multiple SIM vendors. You got Splunk, you've got ArcSight, you've got Alien Vault, you got Logarithm. I mean, there's so many different SIMs that you can purchase. And what's interesting is they charge you based on the amount of data that you're transferring to your SIM. So, for example, if you send a terabyte worth of data to your SIM in a month, then your license has to be for 1 terabyte. And that can get pretty pricey depending on the vendor that you go with. Splunk in particular is very pricey for their terabyte. but others are not quite as pricey. You can get it for a few $1,000 and spin up your own instance if you've got a VMware environment, or you spin it up at AWS, whichever is best for you. But anyway, all these different SIEM vendors are going to have different plugins that work, right out of the box. I've heard that Splunk is super easy because it's got all these pre-built plugins that people have done. Splunk is apparently fairly open with their coding and whatnot, so people can submit their own plugins and stuff that they've created, so that's kind of cool. Alien Vault is also open source, or so their website says. I do think that they still charge you whatever it is for the data transfer, but it's cool that they're making these open source because there's so many different platforms that people use, and especially all the cloud-based stuff, and everybody's moving to software as a service, or cloud-based this and cloud-based that. So it's imperative to get those logs from whatever that cloud source is that you're using, and help correlate those and help track events for forensic work and other things like that. So it's interesting that you have to create all these crazy APIs and whatnot. And some of these cloud applications that we use in my work actually do not allow any kind of API connections or anything. They don't even allow log forwarding capabilities at all, so that's kind of a pain in the rear. But, there's also a way to kind of mitigate that. If you can't forward all your logs from all of your SaaS applications, you can get a CASB solution. CASB is a cloud access security broker. It basically sits in between you, your computer, and your cloud application, whatever that application is. And the CASB essentially creates a full proxy to your cloud application, whatever it is. Let's say you're using Dropbox, for example. In your CASB, you can tell it to, block uploads of, Excel documents, or block this or block that, or don't allow public sharing links and all kinds of cool stuff with a CASB. And then you can forward the logs from your CASB to your SIEM. So that's probably the route that we're going to go as we move forward in our security maturity. We're not quite there yet, but we definitely need a CASB. And we vetted out a few so far. We vetted out Palo Alto's Aperture and Netscope. It's Netskope. Those are kind of the two big ones that we've tested thus far. Netscope was pretty slick. I think I like that one a little better than the Palo Alto offering. But Microsoft even kind of has their own CASB, or I'm not really sure you really call it a CASB because it doesn't really work with anything other than Microsoft products. So it's kind of it's a CASB, but it's only a CASB for Office 365 essentially. But you can forward those CASB logs to your SIEM and then correlate all that stuff, and that's what we plan on doing at my gig once we get the CASB solution in place. But in the meantime, we're hooking into APIs everywhere that we can, or doing syslog forwarding depending on what that particular cloud application lets you do. All just depends on the vendor, really. But I'll write up that document once I get done with this project, and I'll talk about it on the show as well, so people can learn from my mistakes, hopefully. But that's all I had for today. I wanted to kind of keep it simple. I'll have some news-related topics for tomorrow's podcast, but I wanted to save those for tomorrow and talk about the master nodes that I was creating and I'm really excited about the master nodes, so I've been all gung-ho about those here recently. But anyway, once I get done with that sim, I'll post it as well, and check out those master nodes. I'll post a link to that in the show notes. It's masternodes.online if you want to go check it out, or just Google master nodes, and I'm sure you'll find a bunch of different websites. But masternodes.online really has some great calculations in there for ROI and stuff like that. So that's the one I've been looking at. But anyway, go check that stuff out, and check out our sponsor too. It's Southern Graphics T-Shirt Company. Any kind of T-shirt that you want, Southern Graphics can do it for you. If you need a custom shirt made, or you've got a funny saying that you want to put on a T-shirt, they can certainly do that for you as well. Or if you need business shirts for your company or a company event, they can create those for you too. So check them out. Their website is southerngraphicst-shirtco.com. Again, southerngraphicst-shirtco.com. Go check them out. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at eEnglish34 on Twitter, at eEnglish34. All right, y'all. That's all I got for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again tomorrow.